Okay, go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the budget meeting to order at 5:34. We have a very busy agenda tonight, so we're going to jump right in. Mr. Levins, is it okay if Mr. G goes through his normal financial reports, or do you want to chime in first? I'm going to take it. He stepped away for a second, so Mr. G, go ahead and take it.
Yeah. What would?
Oh, wait, there's
what
Mr.
would
Levins.
What
Is
would
that
Pat
okay?
chime in on?
No, it's good. Yeah, he can go ahead.
Okay, just go through your standard budget reports first.
Okay, good. We'll do it. And that's the reason why I wasn't talking the last two meetings, is that I know that I'm going to be talking a lot for the next two meetings. So I will project if I can. Right here. Sure. These are normal, what we do everything. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is our internal accounts. Right now we're at $589,000 at the very top. And I will scroll down a couple of the big accounts that we need to know. There are some negatives in this if you watched it, but we will clear those. I believe there's about $6,000 or $7,000 in negatives. That's normal. As you know, every month I ask for money to clear the negatives in these accounts. Sometimes they go negative, so it's not the end of the world. It's just a normal business. The two accounts we're really looking at when I go down are what I consider our big money ones are the fees, the instructional fees. So let me find that one real quick. Instructional fees right here is right in the middle of the page is $101,000. So that's kind of what we had left over from last year. This year I broke them up. I usually have just one thing, but I wanted, in case anybody said, Mr. G, you're using stuff that's not for COVID, because they put the restrictions on the money. And so I broke it up. So right now we're at $39,000 in there. We're starting to get more money in right now as seniors are starting to pay their debts. It's a normal part of the business cycle for us. We kind of dipped down at our lowest point of the year in about April, and then everybody wants to graduate, wants to walk, wants to get their cap and gown, so they start to pay their fees. So it's pretty healthy, nothing really unusual in here at all. And that's the internal accounts. Any questions at all on internal accounts? Okay, let me move on. Next thing we'll do is our normal budget here. I emailed to everybody, and it's also in the folder. I have three tabs here. I have our SBB funds, our CIWP funds, and then our balanced budget on the bottom here. So let me do SBB funds first. As you can see, on here, I put on the very top, I added a line on the very top of what we can probably use in this budget. Now, I know it's going to go down because we have another month, a month and a half of school, so that number will go down. But as you look at this budget, this 115 funds, and just as a review for everything, this is what they call SBB, or student-based budget. This is where we did about $5,500 last year for every kid that's in the building. Okay. And so this goes away at the end of the year. This is what we buy 95%, 96% of our positions for teachers and staff. And then the rest is other money that we earmark. So the numbers in red are money we can't spend. Like this first number is $149,000 on substitutes. The bad news is I've been asking our network chief, Dr. Lamone, whether or not we're going to be able to get that this year, because normally we have about $30,000. That is teachers that every teacher in our building and counselor in our building gets 7 sick days that they let us use, and that we can use a substitute for. And so that comes out of that fund. Our teachers, we normally never go through all those funds. We're usually left with about $20,000 or $30,000 at the end of the school year with those funds. This year, I think with the remote is I would imagine, I'm guessing that teachers are probably working while they're under the weather, because I was a teacher, and it's usually easier just to teach your class a little under the weather than it is to have a sub and come up with sub plans. But in any event, we have about $150,000 in there. So I asked if we're going to get that money back, and I was pretty much told absolutely not, that CPS is going to sweep that money back, just being this kind of a year. So I was hoping we'd get that money, but we're probably not. So right now we're looking at about $272,000 in our SBB budget. But again, some of that will come down. When we go to our CIWP budget, which is also called supplemental aid, we have about $111,000 in that. So totally, we're at about 380, but I kind of expect that to go down 100,000. It may not go down that much, and we kind of have a plan. If it doesn't go down, we have extra funds. We're going to talk about our technology in a second. I'm sorry, let me silence this. I apologize. So those are our two internal account budgets, not internal account budgets, but those are our two or all three of our budgets right now. Do we have any questions on any of these budgets? Okay, I'll go on then. I will let go of this one. I'm not looking at the
doors open. I knew it. I took over that job
Hold
in
on.
2010.
I'm sorry. I'm not looking at the chat. Is there questions in the chat right now?
No.
Okay, good enough. Just let me know, Kath, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get out of this. The next budget, let's look at, oh, you know what? Let me call that one back up. I apologize, because that has our balanced budget, and I think that's what we're gonna talk about the most. Let's go with this one right now.
Okay, before we get into next school year budget, when
Yeah.
you're talking about the remaining money that we have to spend for this year, I think
Okay.
this is where Mr. Levens wants to chime in with that technology report one. and the
Okay, let me
response
talk
on
about
that.
this one. Let me call it up for you here.
Is that
so
right,
our-
Mr. Levens?
Hold on, I'll preface it with, I'll set the table for Mr. Levens, okay? So originally, our plan was for the budget is at the end of the school year, we would have some funds left over. We would give it to CPS to hold for us for our capital projects. A couple of things changed though, is that in COVID, the CPS wound up giving us 1,400 Chromebooks. And so we thought this is a really good time right now to have a Chrome cart, which is about 36 computers on a cart in every one of our rooms on varsity campus and on the freshman campus. So that's why I'm going to make the recommendation to the LSC that we don't earmark that and hold and have CPS hold it, which I'm still a little suspicious of. And to let's spend it this year and let's buy our technology needs, okay? Because this is really important. It's important as we grow, and eventually after next year, we're going to have more than 3,000 kids on the varsity campus, and then we'll have all of our, 1,200 kids on the freshman academy. It's really important for our teachers to be able to have technology, the same technology in every classroom. So I think let's do that right now. It's all about timing and the fact that they're giving us these computers. Let's buy the extra Chrome carts right now and let's get every room outfitted. So that's what I'm saying right now. So we're going to spend the additional funds, and you see that we only need $229,000, but I also have some money down there for maybe ViewSonics if we need those to equip all the rooms too. I know it would be really nice for every teacher to walk in every room. We have a Chrome cart with 36 computers, 45 for the bigger rooms, and then also a ViewSonic. So right now I've set the table. Pat, you ready to go, my man?
Definitely. And just to kind of clarify, once we have the Chrome carts and they're stocked, we'll do an analysis of the student totals and make sure like the Chrome cart might have 28, it might have 27, it might have 40, depending on the population of the largest class. Meaning I need to use all the Chromebooks we have to disseminate accordingly. So I think the best way to look at the end of the year tech purchases is just kind of, some of these are really self-explanatory and pretty, easy, like the extension cords. As we've been streaming, we've been having issues with, getting power out to the field. So we're going to get a couple of long extension cords that are going to help us with our streaming activity. On that same kind of line of thought process, we have our stream team, which we recently created. And the idea of the stream team is to create a student group that will actually stream the games for our parents, students, community members, and they will take the lead once they're trained on how to do it. And eventually we'd like to see that evolve into kind of, maybe some broadcasting and some very excited about the potential of the stream team. And on that same breath, so using the technology we have a tripod that we want to get a couple of them for the iPads, and the iPads are really nice, especially for indoor streaming, whether it's in the pool, the gym. It's nice. So the live streaming, the tripods will come in very handy for the stream team. And if you kind of scroll down, I know these are a little bit out of order. The live stream switcher, which is also so cool. It's almost like a modern day, you have the old mixer boards. So this switcher actually can have the input for 4 different devices. And it has an output that you can put onto a screen, meaning a student, if we have like a football game, you could have a sideline reporter, you could have a, someone with a long view and someone from an end zone view, and the student could sit there and kind of produce what camera they're going to use. So it takes in 4. It was such a cool thing. And again, we want this stream team and we want the students to really take ownership. So we want to try to get them the equipment that they need to kind of do that and really have fun doing it and really kind of making that production valuable and exciting. So that was just a nice little thing we talked about for that stream team and that goal. As I continue down, and I'll just kind of go with, I mentioned in the last meeting, I know it's a new meeting, so the music department kind of reached out to the tech team and said, hey, you know what? The ViewSonic boards are awesome, but we could use a bigger. And, because we have these big choir rooms, we have the big band room. And so we would like to kind of specialize what we're using. And so what they kind of requested was a interactive, kind of like a smart TV, so to speak, where they can cast their devices. And teachers obviously can use their own devices, whether it's an iPad or whatever it may be, and they can cast it onto a larger screen so it can reach the students better. So we kind of did some research on that one, and we're settled on, these 2 devices for the 4 music areas. I'm sorry, the 5, 2 classrooms, the piano lab, and the choir and band room. And so we're trying to specialize those areas for the music department. So those are on there. You'll see 2 walkie-talkies. One is the walkie-talkie earpiece, and one is just some additional walkie-talkies. As you can see, as I model the earpiece, and I advocate for the earpiece, and I'll be honest, it came really through necessity. As what I witnessed was literally like a call coming over the radio. There's an incident happening in the cafeteria, and all of a sudden people would hear the radio and then they would start going to the cafeteria, right? So they could watch or video, whatever they do. And so it really became apparent that we need the security team to use the earpiece so we're not kind of, advertising things that are happening in the building. So, and I will say it takes getting some used to, and I've kind of adapted. And so I would like to get more earpieces so we can continue to kind of promote using those instead of just a walkie-talkie blaring out advertising things that are going on. And part of that at the bottom you'll see is 5 more walkie-talkies. And that's because as walkie-talkies get older, and some of the older models don't even have a place for the earpiece in it. So I know we're trying to keep up on that so we can communicate throughout the building with our security team. Now back, and I kind of jumping around here. So back to the Chromebooks. As you'll see, there's our goal at the bottom is basically all classrooms standardized with technology in terms of Chrome carts, Chromebooks, and at some point we'll get to the ViewSonics as best we can. So what you'll see is we have our total Chrome carts, the TFA varsity campus, and that's our total. So if we're adding 9 Chrome carts to the freshman academy, and then we will have 43 added to the varsity campus, that would give us the 146 total that we need to equip all classrooms with the Chrome carts. There are some computer labs that we obviously are not going to put Chrome carts into because they have computers. But going through the list, we are, this would pretty much get us our goal where we want to be. And so we're, again, excited about that. Now the ViewSonics is a little bit trickier. And as you can see at the bottom there, we have 46 at the Freshman Academy, and there's 53 here. In this budget, we've kind of carved out 10 more. If we want to get ViewSonics kind of in the remaining rooms that could use it, we will need 25 additional. There's a couple of things I want to note. Purchasing additional Chromebooks, and that's on line 8, is basically trying to keep up with supply and demand. And as we have 600 Chromebooks that are expiring, so to speak. And what that basically means is they no longer are updated by Google. So in order to kind of keep our inventory up to date and functioning, we are advocating for 500 additional Chromebooks so we can stock the Chrome carts. And with the older Chromebooks, for students that, and there's about, there was a survey that was put out where about 80% of students, knock on wood, had technology available at home that they were happy with, and they had very good Wi-Fi. And so we're kind of estimating based on those numbers that 800 students might need additional support with technology at home. So with the addition of the 500 Chromebooks, we feel we could offer the students that need additional support technology at home, we could loan them Chromebooks to use, which I think is very important because that equity piece is huge. Let's see, what have I missed? Let's see, Chromebook, ViewSonics. I think I've covered everything on the list. Oh, and then like combinations for the carts, those are important, obviously, so we can secure the Chrome carts. It would be really hard to kind of like steal a Chrome cart because they're pretty big. Like, I don't know if someone could wheel it to their car. That'd be really tough. So the locks are important to keep this stuff secure. Okay, I think I'm ready for some questions.
I think it's a great idea. I think coming from like a grammar school that kids are using the Chromebooks all the time, it's a nice transition into high school and keep the technology going. I am, are you, Mr. G, are you asking for these to be approved tonight? Because I didn't see a budget like transfer sheets like you normally would in the file today.
So I can answer that. Yes, we're asking for approval because what's going to happen is if we wait till June, it'll be past the procurement deadline. And so we're creating the POs as we speak. But this money has to be allocated and put into the system by May 20th. So, and quite frankly, we're ahead of the game from last year where it was the last day we were trying to get this done. So this is, yes, but the POs have not been created because, well, number one, too, we kind of want to make sure that everybody's on board and we're getting the input that we need to make it successful.
Chrissy, just to let you know, when we do a lot of the budget transfers that I'll go over at the meeting, a lot of them, at this time, I asked Mr. Charles to clean up the accounts. And what he does is he goes in all these individual accounts and then he puts them in one big account. The last couple of years, I've had him put them in a technology because that's what we were leaning towards because we didn't seem to get any capital projects off the ground. This year, I had him put them into, I think, construction. Because I thought that's what we were going to do. But so what's going to happen is we're probably going to have to meet in another week, because we have a whole SRO vote to talk about and stuff like that. So I think I'll have everything ready to go by then, but we'll have just one big transfer then of everything from construction account into technology account so that we can do this, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Before, when we previously talked about how we were going to spend out the remainder of the money, one of the things that was brought up is the security cameras and stuff. There's no mention of that. Is that something that would be worked into this as well?
So I can answer that. So as we know, the server's been upgraded. The technology and the security part of that department in CPS obviously is not as large as it needs to be. And so getting the quotes for that upgrade for the cameras outside and stuff just hasn't come to fruition. So I don't really have a starting point at this time. Trust me, it's right up there with everything I'm advocating for here. I just don't have the information at this time.
Fair enough.
Question regarding the security cameras. Is that something possibly that the CPS with the lockdown drill we did last week, is that something that could be rolled into the needs for that?
I will always advocate for whatever I can get from CPS, but they did pay for half the server also, which was nice. So they are working with us. I just, Mr. Gonzalez, who is amazing, that guy's fascinating to talk to. He, I email, trying to move some stuff along, and I think he just has a big plate, and he's probably thinking, okay, I got Taft going here, and I'm working over here, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to get this quote. I'm going to go. I mean, I can't speak for them, but I can only imagine his plate is probably spinning also. But I will continue to try to get those numbers because it is something that we desperately need to expand our campus watch.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not going to be making these budget recommendation transfers at this meeting. We're going to be calling a special meeting next week to address everything.
That is my understanding, yes.
Perfect. Any questions regarding this topic?
So just to delineate the ones we're talking about with the Chrome carts and the computers, that's on the 2020, 2021 budget still.
Correct. That's the remaining monies that we typically always have, 250 to 350-ish kind of money to spend. Typically, we do end up spending on technology in some fashion. And it comes at the time crunch, like he said, trying to get anything passed with CPS. This is probably our easiest thing to get through to CPS. So this is, it's
That's
the right
always our
budget
default.
to have
It's always
at
our
the time.
default, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say it's a really good default. Like, this is an excellent, outstanding investment that will help the teachers, will help, the students. And it really is, it's not a bad thing, in my opinion.
Having a Chrome cart in every classroom is outstanding. We should be very proud of that fact here at Taft.
You made it happen.
Be right back.
Alrighty. I guess another big part of what we're going to talk about today is the next budget. So go ahead, Mr. G. Dive on
All
in.
right.
So,
you.
but I'm sorry, before you start, I
Oh,
don't mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. I am going to go to my son's event, so I will excuse myself. If anybody has any other questions about the technology piece or even the security piece, be happy to do that. Feel free to reach out to me, and you all have a wonderful evening.
You
Thanks,
too.
Kat.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody can see my pretty picture, right?
Yes.
This picture was taken by a friend of Karen Devine's this past weekend, and she sent it to Karen Devine, who sent it to me, and I said, can I use this? And so we printed up a couple, and so they're around a couple of campuses here, but that is a picture from Natoma and Bryn Mawr this past weekend. So let's just get going on this budget right away. Real quick, Taft is the largest neighborhood school in CPS. We are the second largest CPS school. We will be the first in the fall of 2022. We're the third largest school in Illinois. We are the fourth largest IB school in the world. That's our new logo right there that we put into the newspapers, into the Edison Park Gazette, or whatever they have, their weekly email blast. But we have a three-peat on that, so we're really proud on that, and we're going to keep it going. One time it could possibly be a fluke, but right now there's no doubt we are a great American school. So this is our enrollment. So this is projected. This is exactly out of the budget that I received 2 weeks ago. So that's their projected enrollment, okay, for us, which is exactly what they do with enrollment, is they do it exactly what your number was on the 20th day last year. And they assume, probably correctly, for 99% of the schools that it's going to be the same, okay? However, most schools, I would imagine more than 50%, I'm just guessing, probably go down in enrollment. Okay, that's just been the trend. I started in CPS in 2006, and we were at 405,000 kids in CPS. I think right now we're at 340. So as all of CPS is kind of dipping down a little bit, we keep going above. I know I see people either multitasking or taking notes, but this is in the drive if anybody wanted to use it or anything like that. So I want to save your time, but or you can have questions. What the difference is this year, finally, the last 2 years, we had to beg, borrow, and steal, and I still have some APs that are going through post-traumatic stress syndrome from last year when we were $1.5 million short going into August. We didn't have to beg and borrow this year. They finally believed us. We said, we've got 2 years of data. Trust us when we say our enrollment will go up this year. And really where it's going to go up is where you see the 11th grade. The 11th grade is now going to get matriculated to seniors. So seniors are going to go up by about 40, but then 10th grade to 11th grade, we're going to start matriculating classes of about 1,050, 1,080 through the system. So the 819 is going to be replaced by 1,098, give or take some kids, because we'll lose some, we'll gain some. But they finally believed us. We said we're going to go up 300 kids. They said, we'll give you enough for 200. Dr. Lamone advocated for us, and she got us 275 additional dollars. So right now, the way it stands is we are going to be allocated next year in student-based budgeting for 4235 is going to be our enrollment for next year. I am so glad that Goran's not part of this presentation right now. So I will go on. And that's love for my brother out there. So anyway, our total teachers are 233. Average salary is about 85.5. The reason I put that in is because it's kind of important later on when I start talking about hiring, about why did you pick that number? Because that's kind of like our average teacher number, okay? Total staff, we have 339 people here in the building. And total hires since I've been here is 139 new hires in the building. So I feel good about that. It seems like we're always interviewing, but we have a lot of new staff here. But we have to remember that a lot of these new staffs aren't familiar with how we do business. So we have to think about that with professional development. I mean, we lose 25% of our kids every year. That's why we keep doing the fire drills and the lockdown drills, because we gain 25% more people. So we got to keep that in our minds. Okay, so student-based budget, this is our entire budget. So last year, which is the F21 allocation, we had about almost $23 million in student-based budgeting. Okay, we had supplemental aid, which is about 1.7. So we had about 24 million and a half. Okay, this year it went up. Our student-based budgeting, we're at $25 million. We're almost at $2 million in supplemental aid. So our total of discretionary funds is almost $27 million. So if we were in business, we'd be a $27 million business right now. So you can see our change in allocation. The big number to really look at is the $257,000 in supplemental aid. That's like an increase of 10%. I take that honestly for a couple of reasons. Number one is Mr. Glowitz had a really nice initiative last year of getting DocuSign. So we got a lot of our parents like actually filling out the forms, and they were receiving emails like, yes, you did it. No, you didn't. Yes, you did it and we're denied. Yes, you did it and we're accepted. So everybody knew right away. But I also think what helped us out is a lot of people were going, wait a minute, how come I'm not getting that free money that CPS has given us for lunch and all that stuff? And how do I get that? And so everybody was in a hurry then to do that, to get those checks. So I think that kind of helped us right now. So let me go to the next slide now. This is the kind of the big one here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of walk through it as best I can. I wonder if I can highlight. No, I can't. Oh, darn it. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just going to shoot down to where it says subtotal. Okay, so subtotal on our 22 allocation. So I'm on the second part. I'm pointing to it. No one can see me pointing, but I'm on the F2 allocation. And I'm going down to total, and it's got 3960 there in dark letters, right, kind of in the middle. That's how many they allocated for us. So that's the $23 million. We have something called a teacher salary adjustment, okay, which they give us. That's not the teacher raises. The raises were reflected in the SBB, because the SBB last year per student was, if you see last year, was $57.8503. That's what we got for every student last year. This year it went up 3% to $59.5858, which covered the teacher raises, which I was scared about because I've never seen a raise of SBB of 3%. So I was a little hesitant about that. So I'm really happy. So people are asking me, well, what's this teacher salary adjustment? Is that the raises? That is because a lot of our teachers not a lot, have different lane changes and stuff like maybe somebody got a master's degree, somebody has a different year. So it kind of, they take the average of everything. We had $167,000 last year and $100,000 this year. My first question was, I have a bigger staff right now. How did my number go down? And they said, well, it's taken on an average. So it's not like a yearly thing where it's going to be consistent historically. It changes from year to year. So we're not getting shorted any dollars. Then they give us a multiple building adjustment like they did last year. We have 2 buildings. They gave us $75,000 extra for that. And then our enrollment advance, which is really big right there, which is 1638.10. That's really the number right there that let me sleep the last 2 weeks, because now I don't have to fight and I don't have to defund buckets and I have to play a game about, it's weird when you got to balance a budget and you're trying to keep everybody employed, but I don't have to do that this year because we have a healthy budget. So there's our budget right there, 25 million. Here's our free and reduced lunch. This is for anybody, everybody gets a free lunch. Okay, everybody gets a free breakfast, but if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, you don't have to pay your school fees. And also you get breaks on like testing and stuff. Your AP tests are not $95. I think they're like $20. So you do save a lot of money. But last year we had 48% of our kids on free and reduced lunch. Now we've got 49%. So it really comes out to about almost 200 more kids are on free and reduced lunch this year than they were last year. We got per pupil spending also went up from $950 to $990. So that's the increase right there from 1.6 to 1.9. That's our CIWP dollars that we keep talking about, also known as supplemental aid. Okay, here's all of our positions. I'll go really quickly through the slide because nothing changed from last year. Okay, our foundation positions real quick are, people always ask me that, every school is allotted a principal, a counselor, and a clerk. Okay, not exactly the fairest thing in the world because I've got 4,000 kids and a school with 300 kids gets a principal, a counselor, and a clerk. I think that it should be, I think you should get a counselor maybe for every 1,000 or something, but I'm not running the show. I'm just telling you how the deal works here. Everything else is the same. We have not lost a position. We have not gained a position on any of this. Okay, so here's how I broke it down. I broke it down in an Excel spreadsheet, okay? So total SBB funding. We have 2 different bank accounts here. We have our SBB, which we always talk about. And we have our CIWP or supplemental aid, which we always talk about every month. So I broke them down individually. Our first one was $25 million. Then what we have to do is you have to look at your position list, because sometimes you've hired teachers in the beginning of the middle of the year and they don't roll over, because when you hire in the middle of the year, HR has to give it a closing date or it can't open it. So we have to make sure that everybody that works in this building is now on the new position list. Okay, so we've done that and it basically takes up $23 million of that. So our SBB balance is about $1.2 million that we have to spend. In CIWP, we got additional money. We got 1.9 this year, but we have positions in there also. We have to make sure those 17 positions are in there. You can see in SBB, we had 221 positions. And in CIWP, we have 17. So we have a balance in CIWP at 283. So leak it down, do the math. We have a balance. We have a budget right now of $1.57 million to pay, okay, or that we can play with. The first thing that comes out, don't get me started, but it happens this way. They take out a RICO copier contract right now. They take it right off the top. Whoever works for RICO, they should get a super duper raise because they're doing a real good job getting their money before anybody else does. But that's just the way it works. So right now we got a $1.49 million. And I leave it to the, I don't know if LSC can do this. I would advocate if you want to go to the board and say, let me negotiate my copier contract, I will get that down to $30,000 per year, like I used to do all the time when they let me negotiate it. And I would have the 3 people in the room at the same time. So, but I'm just letting you know. Next one. Okay, so these are the positions we need. We need 14 positions, okay? As I showed you, these are the positions. Our junior level is going to take a hit because we're getting a lot more kids. We're getting about 250 or 300 more kids. So a lot of these positions are to help out with to maintain the status quo in our junior year, okay? We've got 2 Lang and Lit, 1 individuals and societies. It should have been 2, but I'm just letting you know right now I'm most likely moving a counselor over to individuals and societies. Okay, so I just want, I don't want to be deceptive and say, hey, we're getting another counselor, it's going to lower our numbers. It's not. It's just I didn't want to put 2 individuals and societies in there. So what we're doing is I'm moving a counselor, most likely, I mean, everything changes day to day on these budgets, into individuals and societies. So I will need a counselor then. So I need 3 math, 3 science, a counselor, ECS teacher. Our computer numbers are large. We want to expand that. We are going to go with a Mandarin teacher next year. We are going to float that as a balloon at the freshman level to see if any kids sign up for Mandarin. We've had people talking about having another language right here. For years, I've been against that because I've been at schools where you just can't find a good Mandarin teacher. And if one leaves or one has a maternity leave or a paternity leave, whatever, it really can cripple the program. So right now, when we look at the people applying for this, there seems to be a saturated market right now with Mandarin teachers to where if we did lose a teacher, we wouldn't lose the curriculum or the whole language. So we're going to see, maybe our kids don't sign up for it. We don't know. So I have a social worker SEL position in there. I think that's really important. I'm having issues right now. CPS is telling me I can't hire a social worker. I know other schools that have a social worker. I don't know if I have to call it another name, but we need someone to kind of help us out. Our social workers right now are kind of bogged down with our, and I use that term loosely. I don't mean any derogatory on that, but on our DL kids, and we don't, I'm wondering if our regular, our general education kids are not being serviced enough by not having a social worker and they can help us. So I think I'm being more optimistic than a lot of people. I know that behavioral health teams across the nation will tell you that, you know, kids are hurting themselves and cutting themselves and doing by 31% increase. I understand that. I'm not saying that we're immune to that. I just, for some reason, my gut feeling being on this Northwest side for 50 years, I think most of our kids are tougher, but we will have kids that are melting right now. And so we have to look at that. We can't just assume. I'm not assuming that it's all rosy. I know that, but I tend to think it's going to be better than we think. Maybe I'm just trying to send some karma thoughts out there and but I still want to be prepared about that for next year though, because I want to be able to service those kids. Tech coordinator is crucial, especially when you see what we're doing right now with our technology, and we're going to have all those Chrome cards in every room. We got two. Whitney Young has 3 tech coordinators with 2,000 kids. We have 2 on 2 campuses with 4,000. It's time we need another one. We need a full-time tech coordinator at the Freshman Academy. It's time we do that. And so total teacher positions are $1.1 million that we're going to add. Okay, so that leaves it was $299 left over. What are we going to do with the $299? We're going to pre-fund my buckets that we use all year long. So these are like the 15 buckets that we use all year long to fund certain things. Okay, teachers extended day, club sponsors and stuff like that. They may be a little underfunded right now. We may need some more money as the year goes by, but this is where I would deplete these in previous years to buy positions, you know, because I'm gonna tell you something real nice. Right now, we can interview great teachers because we have the budget. Before we couldn't, because you can't interview, because you can't offer a job because you don't have the money to make the position. Right now we have the position. Everybody and their mother wants to work at Taft right now. They understand we're growing. All our new teachers want to work here because they know if they go work at another school, the chances are the population is going to drop and the enrollment's going to drop, and they're going to be the first to go. So everybody, we are like the highest priority for a lot of teachers all over the city that want to work at Taft right now. But nice is we can interview them right now because we have that money. So these are the pre-funded buckets. You can see on the bottom, we have a 0 balance. Let me show you a couple other things, other monetary concerns that we should be aware of. 20th day additional funds should be about $148,000. That's if we get those extra 25 kids that I think we're going to get. Could be more, could be less. If for some reason we don't go back, I believe that would hurt us. I think I've talked to, you know, I can only tell you who I talked to. I've talked to some parents that says, if you're not going back, I'm going Catholic on you guys. I mean, that's the verbiage to me. It's like, I need my kids in school. So they're being, you know, I like the fact that my parents can talk to me straight. But we may have parents right now that all of a sudden are at a Catholic school and say, I can't afford the $18,000 anymore. I'm going to Taft. So it may wash itself. But I'm just saying right now, you know, my programming team, Mr. Flores, Mr. Kuzma, Jenny, they can tell me for the last 7 years within like 5 kids what our number is going to be. So I really trust them on that. That's our allocation right there. Class size allocation. Last year we had about 30 teachers that were over their CTU contract. And what I mean by that is in the CTU contract, it says every teacher, they give you a class recommendation. So core classes are 28 and art, I think, is 31. Music, I think, is 34. I might have that reversed. PE is 40 per class. That's a recommendation. You can go above that. They consider that an oversized class, but what they don't like you doing is in an individual class, go more than 6 over, okay? You can do that. I can do that. I can do 6. If I had Scott here, I could give him 6 more in a class. I could actually give him 6 more in another class, but I can't go higher than 13 on his entire schedule. Okay, so it kind of puts a ceiling on what we can do at Taft or at any CPS school. So teachers can only go 6 above in their individual classes and 13 above on their schedule. Last year we had about 30 that were over that limit, which kind of dinged us with CPS and CTU. But before I get going on this, most of those teachers had like 35 in a class, but their numbers were under the 153. So it was just that one class that they were dung over. So I don't want you to think like it's rampant and it's out of control. However, the good news about that is CTU came in and they gave us one position in February that we could divide up into stipends. And so everybody that had an extra class load, we gave them an hour of overtime after school every day. So some of the teachers are reaping a little bit of the benefit. Now, you know, whether it's good or bad, I mean, they have a bigger class, but it is giving everybody a little piece of the pie. At this budget, we were allocated 1 position for next year to lower those numbers per contract. Okay. I petitioned her right away and I said, well, I'm going to get on the bandwagon right away. And I said, listen, you told us we were going to get 4. We don't need 4, but we could use 3. Can you really help us? And so she came through and they gave us 3 positions right now. Now those could be divided up into 0.2s or overtime indicators if we need them, because a lot of departments may only need 1 class covered. However, if we get to be like computer classes where I need 4 covered, then we can hire a full-time teacher to take that. I don't really want my teachers to have overtime indicators. It burns them out. They don't get to participate in TCTs. It's a lot of work when you're teaching 6 classes, even if it's the same class. It's a lot of work. So I'd rather not do that. Some teachers love doing that. I would rather hire full-time teachers to, if we had 5 positions, but we do have the option right now. At least we have the option to be able to divvy that up if we need some 0.2s. On any given year, we average between 10 and 15 overtime positions. So that will help us out. We also have something I'm calling summer COVID money. That the government has leaked down to the districts and now the schools. That comes out to about $801,000 that we're going to get this summer. That's going to come with some strings attached to it. Don't know what those are, but I understand that we can use it for professional development. It's not that we can buy positions with that, but we can use that for professional development. So as soon as we get the requirements of that money, I will share that with everybody. And are you happy with your budget? I'm happy with my budget. I slept well. So I am going to, if anybody has any questions, I can go back or forth. Any questions right now?
Yeah, next to the class size allocation, the last slide you were on, was there supposed to be a number listed there?
On this slide right here?
Yep.
3 positions. So I'm just saying that those are 3 positions. So positions average about $85,000, or they can average $120,000. It depends who we get. I'm going to use those positions right now. What we have to do right now, when we're hiring those 14 teachers, it's almost hurting me to say this, but gone are the days when I can hire anybody that comes through the door. It's just the reality of the situation. If I've got a great teacher and they've got a PhD and they've got 20 years, that's a really expensive employee. Unless they're unbelievably great and they can help us out in so many ways, I have to lean towards teachers that are new to the district, or maybe just have a master's degree. So I kind of have to stick like that. What I want to use these class size allocations for is to allocate them to the 3 highest teacher salaries that we have. So it's like 3 passes. I get to hire 3 people that are out of those boundaries, if you will. So I can, for lack of a better term, they're all great teachers, but I can hire like 3 first round draft choices with those numbers. So I really don't want to allocate a number on those, but it could go, a veteran teacher making high scale could be over $130,000 a year. Their salary could be $105,000 and with all the benefits. So those are like our first round draft choices for me. So I would use those class side allocation for those. That's why I didn't have a number there, Chrissy. Any
Mr.
other
Plessner?
questions?
Yeah, Mr. Plessner is asking, is this to hire teachers or to fund overtime?
Either one, Scott. So we have that was one of the things we asked for. Please don't just earmark it for teachers, because again, I may need 5 different departments that need just 1 class covered. So they gave us the flexibility to either hire 3 additional teachers or break it up into 15 overtimes. So like I said, if I would like to, it's better for me to hire a full-time teacher than it is to give overtimes. I don't want to burn my teachers out. I don't want to take them away from TCT meetings. But if that's the way the number plays out, if I've got 2 in individuals and societies and 3 classes in language and lit, but I got somebody that's duly certified, I'll take that teacher then, because they can handle both of those. But sometimes you need like a guitar and a sculpture, or 5 different departments. So you may only need your only option would be to lower class sizes. You're going to have to give in overtime.
So we'll
Next
kind of
question.
have to make that decision when things shake out a little bit.
Yeah, when the programming is done. Right now, we have, I think, 2,700 programs done right now. So as they come clear, we're meeting with departments this week to go over with each department how their numbers look right now.
Ms.
Juliet, I think.
Pasco? Go ahead.
Ms. Pascal?
We can't hear you. I'm not sure if it doesn't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you, hon.
She said, nice budget, Mr. G.
Nope, still can't hear you.
Can you type it in the comment box, Juliet?
I'm impressed that we're so ahead of the game on the budget. I know you don't have to have it approved. Again, we're going to go to the LSC meeting asking to approve this budget today.
Yeah, and I want to ask y'all, should I do this again in the LSC meeting, or do we just go with we're going to approve the budget? I can do either thing, whatever you want me to do.
I'd like to hear the rest of the LSC is feeling. Do they have enough information in order to approve this, or do you guys feel like you need to have another meeting to discuss it further? You can.
And then, in addition, is there any questions regarding this budget from anybody? We can
I have
take
a question.
Uh-huh.
Is the Mandarin option already on the programming and the scheduling for next year?
Yes.
The Mandarin teacher?
Yes. Well, it's not, we haven't picked it up yet. We put it on freshman programming so that they can pick it as one of their languages. Now,
Okay.
if we get more than 90 kids that pick it, then that makes that language sustainable to where we can hire it then.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all about language. My concern is the mental health of the students and a social worker
Without a doubt. Yeah.
and someone else to step in. So the thought of, hey, let's see if we can throw Mandarin out there. I'm just concerned that maybe this isn't the year, because I know from inside my household and a lot of other households of Taft students that they really are struggling. And if
Yeah.
all our social workers are towards the DL kids, I
No,
just have concern.
No, that's one of my highest priorities at all. I mean, I don't, it's been a recommendation from almost everybody, but I actually don't need recommendations because I see it myself. We need it.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's important for my kids. I mean, you can't touch a kid's heart if their heart's broken or wounded. So it's very important. Julietta, you ready to go?
She wrote it in the chats. It says that if you've already done the hiring for the social worker and computer coordinator, tech coordinator, or you're going to be interviewing.
I'm going to be interviewing. Right now, like I said, I'm having difficulty with CPS saying you can't hire a social worker. So I have to figure out something. I'll do what I do, and we'll rename it or do whatever we need to do legally to get a social worker in here or some kind of SEL component to it.
Can I ask that question? I don't
Go ahead,
understand.
Diane.
I don't understand that they're giving you a hard time hiring,
Yeah.
like calling it a social worker.
They are
That
though,
position?
Diana, they are. So talk to Mr. Eric. He's been in conversations with them, Mr. Flores.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
But I don't give up. You guys know me by now, 7 years. I don't give up that easy. Someone tells me no.
No, I know.
Yeah, don't worry
Okay.
about that.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
Mrs. Pasco said that their CPS is hiring an army of social workers. She doesn't understand it.
Yeah, we advocated to get a social worker from them, and because right now we have 2.4 social workers. Okay, and we advocated, and they looked at there's a percentage of time spent with our kids. Okay, just to put that in perspective, we have 2.4 positions funded by CPS. Lane Tech has 1. Okay, different school, different time. So we really had to make a strong case. So we sat down with them, the social worker department, about a week ago, and they looked at our numbers as far as like percentage of minutes spent with our kids that are in their IEPs. And our numbers were all at 129%, 110%. What we would have liked is if they were at like 60%. Okay, because then we could advocate and say, listen, they're not meeting the minutes. And so I went the other way and I said, well, I'm going the other way. My social workers are spending too much time with these kids because they need it. So isn't that the case? What's going on is we have a coding issue right now. So we're working with trying to get our coding correctly, because I think it's nobody's fault. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. It's just that the communication was not right. So we got to code correctly, get everything back in order, and then we can go back to them and request another social worker. But I like dealing with people that are straight shooters, and really the straight shooter that I talked to said, Mark, it's probably not going to happen. So, Diana was at that meeting too. So she's nodding, she understands.
Okay, we're coming up on 5 more minutes left in this meeting. I'm going to ask one more time. Is the LSC on board with presenting this at the LSC meeting to approve?
I am.
Any nays?
This is Anita. I am too.
I am.
Anybody would like further discussion, or any other questions answered, please let me know. If not, I'll be making the motion to approve this tonight. And after hearing, I've been doing this quite some time and been at Taft for the last 4 years. This is the most positive I've ever heard you, Mr. G, on a school budget.
I'm really happy. I mean, the
I
whole
think that
thing
does
was
something.
that additional funding. I mean, it really is. Thank you. Hey, real quick, Kathy, did you get the information I sent you on how we approved this budget? Did I sent you that, right?
I did an email, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to, I don't know if we, there's a sheet there that says I am Mark Grissaber, I am the principal, I approve this budget. I am Scott Plenzer, I am a LLC member, I approve this. Whether that's how we do it, I was a little fuzzy on how we get it done. So
I'll
however
read
you
it,
like.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it hard yet, so I'll see.
Madam Chair, I do have one question. I think it was 3 years ago when we were meeting with the teachers. Never enough communication. I just want to make sure that our teachers are squared away with this, that they're, the communication from our teacher reps, we're all good to go.
I think so. I mean, I'll let them speak for themselves, but I mean, we meet with the PPLC and the PPC. The recommendations have been social worker, technology worker, lower class size. I mean, so that's really what that's what this budget is focused on. So I feel they have, but
and I'm not suggesting Principal G,
oh, I know.
We all have our wish list and we all want things, but just that there's a working relationship between administration and teachers so that there is a strong communication line so that teachers who want to be teachers who truly understand it and not just criticize sake of want to spend time and understand where the dollars are allocated. I just want to make sure that forum is happening.
And I also request that you continue to do this and have that as part of your budget meetings. You continue to, ask the PPLC to make their budget recommendations monthly so that it's not done in the last, because I'm telling you, this was a nice way to get a budget this year.
Yep.
I've never seen it happen like this. So it's usually the last second, do it now, split it tomorrow kind of thing.
You got 1 week to get it done. Yeah. And also one of the budget recommendations, I believe from PPLC, was to go one-on-one technology. And we were going to put that off for a year, but I think this is a really good compromise that it's about as close as you can get to one-on-one. When a kid walks in a room, I have a computer. But, I like the fact that the technology is controlled by the teacher in the room and not the other way around.
Yeah, I would add that
Go ahead.
some of the recommendations of the PPLC have been reflected in this budget proposal.
Wonderful.
All right, Scott.
Any other public participation?
To reiterate then, Mark, everybody, do you guys feel he needs to re-present this in the general meeting? Or are we good that it was just presented in the budget meeting and we'll go ahead and vote on it?
I'm okay with it just being presented in the budget meeting.
Me too. Anybody
too.
agree?
Me too. Me 3, 4.
Wonderful. I'd like to adjourn the budget meeting at 6:29. I'll see everybody back in a minute for the LSC meeting.
Yeah, Team Taft, we did it.
Mark, real quick, Pavel should be here for the general meeting, just to let you know.
Excellent, excellent.